Good afternoon, everyone. I'll start this session with saying, if a man empties his purse into his head, no man can take it away from him. An investment in knowledge always pay the best interest. With this thought, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all our conclave enthusiasts. We at Thakur College of Science and Commerce feel privileged to host another great session of the Information Infothon Conclave 2K20 on Skill and Talent Enhancement program brought to you by IT Department of TCSC Mumbai in collaboration with IQAC. I would like to call our guest, Dr. Nishikant Jha. He is an assistant professor and HOD BAF at Thakur College of Science and Commerce. He is also a member Board of Studies, Accounts and Finance and Financial Management, University of Mumbai. He is also Honorable Secretary, Indian Accounting Association, TB. Sir, please address the over to you, sir.
Thank you, Poonam. Thank you very much. Uh, on behalf of Thakur College, IQSC, Department of IT, I really welcome all of you for International Infothen Conclave 2020. Third day, third session. That is the last session. The session is based on clinical research and SaaS programming. I welcome our guest, Suchit Salve sir, who is a manager of IQVIA Clinical Research and SaaS Programming. I also like to welcome the convener of the conference, Dr. S.K. Singh, who is the coordinator of IT department, also the coordinator of IQSC Thakur College of Science and Commerce, and Dr. S.D. Azgekar, who is the vice principal of Thakur College of Science and Commerce. I also like to welcome all the participants and organizing committee for making this event as a grand success. The journey of Thakur College has started more than 25 years ago in 1992, where we have started the junior college. 1997, we got commerce section, and 1999, we started with science section. Now we are permanently affiliated to University of Mumbai, and with the able leadership of our own beloved principal, Dr. C.T. Chakravarti, for more than 20 years, we fetch many credential to the college. We have successfully completed the number more than 22 departments in our college and more than 14,000 students in our college. We have completed 3 cycles of NAC, and last cycle, third cycle, we got A grade. We have also conferred by the UGC autonomous status in the year 2019-20 for 10 years. We got the best college award from University of Mumbai for the year 2018-19. We have also got Education World Forum survey, All India, 55th rank in Maharashtra, 15th rank in Mumbai, 13th rank. It is rightly stated early in the morning during first session by ma'am that once we started with this step, that is skill and talent enhancement program under able leadership of Santosh sir and IT department. See, you can believe that, and it's proven that more than 4,500 participants across the globe who have registered and got the benefit of this conclave. It include few countries like Finland, Canada, Iceland, Iraq, Oman, US, Australia. And ma'am has rightly stated that without sharing, we cannot enhance our knowledge. This time we are sharing through IT and IT department. Being the last session, it is very obvious that we should see to it that the objective which has been set for this organization, for this conclave, has been fulfilled or not. And I have found the 5 objectives we have included for this conclave, IIC 20, that is interaction with international and national group of academician, research scholar, expert from industries, role of IT in changing way of life, way forward, role of IT in dealing with human management crisis, IT in the new world order of post-COVID 2019, exchange of idea, knowledge, experience, and wisdom. Honestly speaking, I'm watching since last 3 days, all these 5 objectives has effectively covered in entire 9 session. Nothing has been unseen, untouched, and all credit goes to IT department under the able leadership of Dr. Santosh Singh. I rightly state for this department few words. Some people find pearls in ocean. Some people find fishes. Some people just get selfies. Some people just wet their feet. See, if you will take world as ocean, it's up to you whether with your hard work you can gain the pearl of success or you just stay alive. It is rightly stated for entire department and for sir that he has made this pearl from across the globe, got the pearl from across the globe, and made this wonderful necklace of IIC 2020 for us for years together. Thank you, sir. Thank you, entire department, for giving this pearl of necklace to Thakurites for Thakur College, and which will be remembered for you forever and ever in this period of COVID. This was noble idea. None of the colleges in Mumbai University has courage to accept this challenge, and you have accepted and you have made this challenge as an opportunity. Once again, I congratulate all of you and I welcome all the participants across the globe for this last session. Thank you. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir. It's so kind of you. Now I would like to call Ms. Josna Anthal, the Conclave Secretary, to brief us about this conclave and IQSC. Over to Josna, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. As we say, when you are tempted to get upset, remind yourself you have the power to remain calm. So basically, this particular quote goes very well with my team of this conclave because everybody was very upset with the lockdown and the happenings which was around the globe, like about this particular situation. So we, under the able guidance of Dr. Santosh Singh, he put us on the track. Yes, don't get upset with the situations, take it as a challenge. So he has actually given a challenge to the team to come up with the novel idea where we can connect with the world and let everyone come to a common platform and let us do something which is constructive for the humankind or for the society. So that was our objective basically, which has been already mentioned by Dr. Nishikant Jha, that we are actually very happy that we have achieved our objective in the last 3 days during the 8th session. And now we are in the last session of the conclave, that is the 9th session. So in this conclave, numbers are speaking for everything, as we have got more than 3,500 registrations around the globe, different countries. We got the speakers from different countries, different time zones, and they have adjusted their time with us. So we are very thankful to all those speakers, like people from speaker from Washington DC, one speaker from Netherlands, one speaker from London, one from Spain. So we are happy that somewhere we tried our best to connect around the globe with our own people, those who are residing everywhere. So I hope all the participants, those who are here for attending the last session of the conclave, will find it very, very fruitful and informative. And we all hope that this particular connection will go in the future also. So wishing you all the very best and have a very impactful session in the coming few minutes. Over to Poonam.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm totally agree with you. Now we're looking forward to today's session with even more enthusiasm. Moving on, I would like to call our Conclave Technical Coordinator and Head Department of Data Science, Mr. Omkar Singh, to introduce our speaker, Mr. Suchit Salvi. Over to Omkar, sir.
Thank you, Poonam. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, very much audible. You can go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon to all the guests and participants. In the capacity of HOD Data Science, Thakur College of Science and Commerce, it is my privilege to brief about Mr. Suchit Salvi, who is speaker for the session. Mr. Suchit has done his BSc IT, MSc IT, and MPhil and has over 15 years of IT experience. He has worked as technology lead in Infosys, senior process expert, Accenture, and also is ex-faculty to TCSE, Narsi Monji, and ICWA. Currently, he is working as manager in IQVIA, Clinical Research and SaaS Programming. So now I welcome Mr. Suchit for the session on Clinical Research and SaaS Programming. I also request all the participants to keep video mode off and will take few questions at the end of the session. And over to you, Suchit. Thank you.
Thank you, Omkar sir. Thank you, Santosh sir, for considering me and giving me an opportunity to present this topic in this conclave. It is my privilege to be part of this conclave in the capacity of a presenter. Welcome all participants. Once again, good afternoon to all of you. I'll share my screen now. Let me know,
Yes.
Omkar sir, if you are able
Yes.
to see my screen.
Yes, your screen is visible. You can go ahead in a full view mode.
Thank you, Santosh sir, for confirming. So as Omkar sir have already introduced me, so I am Suchit Salvi, currently working in IQVIA as manager and previously worked in Infosys and Accenture. As you know, the topic of this session is overview of clinical research and SaaS. Let me just tell you one story to begin with. We all are in the crisis called coronavirus. We are having lockdown, extended lockdown, 1.0, 2.0, and currently we are into 3.0. And most probably, we will be moving into 2.0 lockdown also. When it comes to India, especially the state where currently I am situated in Maharashtra, in Mumbai. So when we talk about any disease, that disease has to be conquered. We need to identify the solution in terms of some medicine, some therapy, some treatment, so that people who are suffering from that disease will be cured and will live healthy life again. So the clinical research plays a significant role when it comes to curing the disease. So coming back to the story, group of scientists, group of lab technicians, group of doctors, group of researchers, group of medical experts, all of them are working in a very, very dedicated manner to identify that one molecule, a molecule which will have the properties to cure a disease, a molecule which will have properties to cure the disease which may have happened to animals or to human beings. This molecule needs to be further tested. How this testing began? How this testing begins? You have to understand one thing, that for a molecule to go through a journey of various phases and ultimately reaching in the medical shops in form of a finished product, that is medicine, takes many years. The success rate of a molecule which has been discovered by the scientists having some properties to cure the disease, becoming a medicine, is very, very less, 1% or 2%. The entire journey of this molecule becoming a medicine generally takes around 5 to 10 years at least. And if more confirmations are to be done from statistical point of view or from medical point of view, then such clinical research on that particular molecule, on that particular test drug, even takes more than 10 years. During these years, if they identify that a particular drug which is being tested is not safe for the animals as part of preclinical testing, then that clinical trial or that clinical study is discontinued. If it is passing the test of safety, various parameters are there that I will quickly go through in this session. Then and then only the efficiency and effectiveness of that drug is examined. The difference between efficiency and effectiveness is very simple. Efficiency means a molecule is having the capability to cure a disease, and effectiveness is nothing but a molecule is actually consumed by the patient and patient is cured. So there are two aspects of clinical research: safety analysis and efficacy analysis. Safety in terms of safety of patient, volunteer patients who are participating in clinical trial. So safety plays a very important role, and of course safety is of a paramount importance. If healthy patient who is voluntarily participating in a clinical trial wherein these medicines or drugs which are under research are being tested, if that healthy patient becomes unhealthy, then it's a clear indicator that that drug is unsafe. So the pharmaceutical companies who are sponsoring this clinical research and development of a drug, they decide to discontinue that trial. And then again, we all go back to square one, wherein again, all these group of scholars, scientists, doctors, medical data reviewers, everyone, they again identify a new molecule, and then again it is tested on first animals and then in human, and once it all goes through all the phases, then it is given to the regulatory authorities, like we have ISI or we have AGMARC. So these are the worldwide regulatory authorities in order to determine the quality of a product. In similar way, we have something called as ISO, as many of you might have heard, International Standard Organization. Same way, we have, in case of clinical research, FDA, Food and Drug Administration, based in United States, US FDA. So US FDA is regulatory authority in the world of pharmaceutical domain, wherein pharmaceutical companies are submitting the application for a new drug that has been developed, that has been tested, first in animals and then in human beings. Once pharmaceutical company feels that a drug is safe for animals, safe for human beings, then first phase is over. The next phase comes when drug is tested for efficacy part, efficiency and effectiveness. And if it is curing the disease that has been targeted, then based on those reports which are generated, safety and efficacy reports, these safety and efficacy reports are submitted to the regulatory authority, as I told you, FDA. FDA will have its own rules, will have its own testing parameters. If this particular drug is successful in their testing, in their monitoring, in their assessment, then and then only FDA gives the green signal to pharmaceutical companies to go ahead and market that drug and eventually sell it.
Sorry to Suchit sir.
Yes,
sir, the PPT is not running actually. It is showing only the first PPT. So
yeah, I have not yet went to the
okay,
second
okay,
slide.
Because there will be okay, sir. Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. So as I said, I am just summarizing the story in brief before I start with the next slides. Group of scientists identifying the molecule which will have the properties of curing a disease that has been targeted. Then it is first tested on animals. If such preclinical testing is successful, then it is tested in human, on healthy volunteers first, then on actual patients who are suffering from that disease, let's say, for example, coronavirus in this case. And if that particular drug or medicine is safe for patients, they are not finding it difficult to have it, or their health is not deteriorating further, and on positive aspects, they are feeling better, their coronavirus disease is getting cured, all the safety and efficacy parameters are tested in human. And after that, these safety and efficacy reports are submitted to regulatory authorities. They implement their own standards, assessments, testing, and if everything is successful, then regulatory authority gives green signal to market that particular drug by those pharmaceutical companies across the world and eventually sell it. So all the end users, actual patients, they can go to the medical shop and they can buy, and if those medicines are meant to be prescribed by doctors, then that is part of marketing. Pharma companies, they market this drug to various doctors, and then doctors can prescribe such medicines to the patients. So this is the entire story on the basis of which the world of clinical research operates. So on that note, we'll now start with the next slide. So what are the things that are on tables of contents? So we'll talk about clinical trial protocol life cycle. What is the drug development process?
Mr. Suchit, sorry to interrupt. Can you make it now in a full view mode?
Sure. So the table of contents includes, we'll talk about protocol life cycle, drug development process, various aspects of clinical research, trials and process, various phases when these drugs are tested in human, phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. What are the various sections of clinical trial protocol, time and event schedule, key concepts that you can take away from this session. What is CDISC? What is ICH, GCP? And of course, we will also talk about SAS, how it is useful in clinical research. And last few minutes, I'll encourage you to ask any questions, and I will be more than happy to answer them. Moving on to the first point, that is clinical trial protocol life cycle. Sorry. So as I told you at the beginning of this presentation, a story. So now you can correlate. Now I will be more specific in terms of what exactly clinical research professionals are doing, what exactly is happening with the clinical data when it is being collected, processed, stored, analyzed, and reported. I repeat, I'm already telling you the life cycle of how clinical data is managed in terms of how it is collected, stored, processed, analyzed, and reported. Before going into the details of this, you must all understand that the cycle from data to decision, D to D, data to decision is very important for all of you to understand. Data is a raw data which is collected, patient data, clinical data with reference to demography, study of population, laboratory data, various lab tests, medical history, physical examination, vital signs, that is systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure. Of course, adverse events, any untoward incident happening to a patient while undergoing a treatment as part of the clinical trial. So this is various type of a clinical data. So this data is in a raw format. As it is collected from those respective patients, from those respective sites where this research and development activity is being conducted by the pharmaceutical company in association with my company such as IQVIA, which is called as contractual research organization, which is providing pharmaceutical services to various pharma companies, as well as in association with the doctors and medical data reviewers. So pharmaceutical companies, CROs such as IQVIA and doctors, they're collecting data in a raw format. This data has to be further processed. When we say process, from programming standpoint, we have to properly fit it in rows and columns, in tables. We will have demography table, we will have lab table, adverse event table, vital signs table, and so on and so forth. All these tables are stored and archived for further reference, for further use. So now we have already moved from data to information. So what is information? Information is a processed data. So when, any person, when he goes to a police station and when he lodges a complaint, what is the first document that you come to know that the policemen are doing? They are having FIR. So whatever that complainant is telling the policeman verbally or in whatever way, that is a raw data. But when that policeman is noting down his complaint, he is creating first information report. So he is having that register, it has rows and columns, he is making all the notes, and then he says, this is the copy of FIR. And that is how data, once it is processed, stored properly, becomes a data which is understandable, readable, and from which we can derive some logic, some meaning. And that's why data becomes information. Moving on, information is further processed, further analyzed, and it becomes knowledge. So when we are having this information about various patients and various drugs that they have consumed, various medical history, vital signs report, laboratory results, this has to be further programmed, further processed as per the requirement to determine whether the patients who are undergoing the treatment, are those responses from patients are positive or negative? Are they feeling better or not? So if we are talking about any drug which is being researched for controlling blood pressure, high blood pressure, then definitely at various time intervals, such observations, some data is collected at various time intervals while the conduct of that clinical trial, wherein they identify if blood pressure is now coming back to normal or not. So if it is coming back to normal, it's a knowledge. So this information, a piece of information which is stored in various tables, has to be further analyzed, has to be further processed, and then we call it as what? Knowledge. So pharma companies, doctors, medical data reviewers, scientists will have the knowledge about the molecule, whether this molecule is safe, number one. Secondly, whether this molecule is efficient and effective, that is efficacy or not. And that's why once we have this knowledge in hand as pharma company, then they are taking a decision. So I'm coming back to the thing that I told you, D to D, data to decision. Data, its process becomes information. Information is further analyzed, becomes knowledge. Knowledge, what we infer from knowledge, we infer decision. We are empowered to take a decision based on the knowledge that we got from the information which we derived from data. This is how the cycle runs. And once the decision has been taken based on the final safety and efficacy clinical trial reports, that yes, it is good to go ahead and apply or send an application to the regulatory authority that we are having this new drug, we are applying for this new drug, please assess this drug by using your standards and let us know if you are giving us a green signal or not, so that we can go ahead and market this product and it will be available for sale in market, or it will be available for doctors to prescribe to their patients. Now, this is how the data to decision cycle operates in clinical research. And now you can correlate to the clinical trial protocol life cycle, which is there on your screen. So a research hypothesis, I told you, they will have the hypothesis ready in terms of the properties of molecule able to cure disease. Then they develop a protocol. Protocol is always there. Protocol in this context is set of rules and regulations to be followed by each and every pharmaceutical company conducting a clinical trial. So sponsor is nothing but a pharma company who is sponsoring, who is investing his money for such research and development. And that's why they are called as sponsors. So they conduct various clinical trials, say for COVID, that is coronavirus trials. So there are many pharmaceutical companies across the globe. They are already conducting such clinical trials. So those pharmaceutical companies are sponsors, funding. And then you can see the next one, site and trial preparation. So site is nothing but from which various locations patients will be recruited. Volunteer patients in phase 1 who are called as healthy patients, and then actual patients. Those will be recruited by signing informed consent. So they have to sign an informed consent saying that, yes, we are ready to voluntarily enroll ourselves in this clinical trial and we will consume your test drug. So after this informed consent, screening is done for the patients. Obviously, for any kind of a clinical trial based on the disease that we are targeting, there has to be some screening process. Some 100 number of volunteers might be applying, but enrolling, but all are not selected. So there are certain inclusion-exclusion criteria that every clinical trial protocol has. According to that, if those volunteers are fitting into that inclusion criteria, then they are formally inducted in that clinical trial. So subject enrollment is done at various sites where screening is done, and they are formally inducted in a clinical trial for a particular disease that has to be cured, and that particular molecule which was developed by scientists will be tested on them. They need to consume that test drug, or if it is in form of an injection, then they need to take those injections. If they have to take that syrup and so on. And as I was telling you, the cycle from data to decision. So here we are, the next one, data collection, monitoring and processing. So data, clinical data is collected. I already told you various types of data, vital signs, labs, adverse events, then medical history, physical examination, demography, laboratory data, etc. All safety related data is collected. And then this trial is conducted by trial sponsor at various sites. So here comes the role of a SAS programmer, which is also part of this session, wherein we have SAS programming professionals who are using SAS programming tool to electronically capture this data. I'm repeating, SAS programming professionals who are using SAS programming tools to electronically capture data, store it in tables, collect data from various tables, in other words, merge the data from various tables, and then generate safety and efficacy reports in PDF format, RTF format, Excel format, graphs format. It can be visualization tools which are implemented afterwards, wherein we have graphs, etc. So we have various attributes of SAS also, from basic SAS programming, where we are having one procedure called procedure SQL, wherein you can write SQL code also, as well as we have SAS programming syntax. So SAS is an analytical system which is used to perform such analytics. And of course, the graph feature of SAS, that is SAS graph, is also used to generate various types of visualization outputs such as pie chart, histogram, and so on. And once these safety and efficacy reports are generated by the statistical programmers, we call them in clinical research industry, pharma industry, we call SAS programmers as statistical programmers, because we are talking about numbers, we are talking about statistics and so on. So we call it as a statistical programmers. And then there are another species who are called as biostatisticians. So biostatisticians are from the statistics background. So they are basically, I mean, if we talk about, they have done their academics in statistics, bachelor's in statistics, master's in statistics. So they implement various statistical models. There are various statistical models, chi-square test, empirical model, and so on. So whatever SAS programmer outputs are generated, they are further analyzed by the biostatisticians, and they implement various statistical models, and then they finally create one document wherein they will have all the safety and efficacy report of a drug that has been tested. This final safety and efficacy report is then given to the final block in this slide, as you can see, to the regulatory. I already told you, for example, US FDA, United States Food and Drug Administration. So while pharmaceutical company is submitting an application, they have to submit the application and submit these safety and efficacy reports to them. And then they will analyze it and decide whether green signal or red signal to be given. Moving on to the next slide, that is drug development process. So how this drug development process is panning up. So now you can correlate to the story that I initially started with: discovery of a molecule in labs. Then the development phase starts, clinical trials are conducted, and once green signal is given, then as part of manufacturing, these sponsor companies, pharmaceutical companies, they manufacture those drugs in those factories. And once they get the required marketing approval also, as well as approval from the government of the land, then they go ahead and sell this product. So as you can see, the drug discovery process involves finding out the target that causes the disease. I told you, target disease, say coronavirus, chemical, biological compounds. So this is basically, we are talking about what lab technicians, scientists are doing in those labs. So those molecule is more appropriately named as chemical, biological compounds, are screened, tested against these targets to find leading drug candidates for further development. So these are all technical words. It simply means that molecule is discovered in the labs and it has to be tested first in animals and then in human. So we call it as in vitro, in vivo. These are all technical terms, how they affect the biological system. So here I will also touch base upon, before moving on to the next slide, are about two things: pharmacokinetics, PK, and pharmacodynamics, PD. So what is PK and what is PD? So pharmacokinetics is the manner in which drug moves in your body at various parts of your body, and pharmacodynamics is the way body reacts to that drug. So this is the basic difference in layman's terms of what is PK and what is PD. So PK is how drug goes in your body, and PD, that is pharmacodynamics, is how body responds to a drug. So this is how the analysis is done in terms of how the drug will affect the biological system when it tested in animals first and then in human. So the definition of clinical research, after all this prelude and the story and the D2D definition or D2D cycle and the clinical trial life cycle, now you will be in better position to understand this definition. Clinical research is a branch of healthcare science that determines safety. I already told you, safety of a patient, effectiveness of medication or the devices which are used to conduct any treatment or therapy or a surgery, diagnostic products or treatment regimens intended for human use. So treatment regimens is nothing but what? Up treatment and down treatment. So up and down is what? Increasing the dosage. say 5 mg dosage, 10 mg dosage, 15 mg dosage. Up titration, down titration. Down titration is what? Reducing the dosage. 15 mg dose, 10 mg dose, 5 mg dose, and so on. So what are the various things which are included in clinical research? Medical and behavioral research involving volunteer patients. I told you healthy patients as well as actual patients who are voluntarily agreeing to participate in clinical trial. Then identification of better ways to prevent, diagnose, treat, and understand the disease. Trials that test new environment, clinical management, clinical outcomes, and long-term studies. And strict scientific guidelines. So when it comes to clinical trial, ethics play a very important role. It's very important for a pharmaceutical company to ensure the confidentiality of a patient is maintained. They do not have to disclose who are the patient's name or telephone number or address of those patients. These all things are considered as confidential information, should not be disclosed. I would say must not be disclosed with anyone. And whenever this patient related data is used or it is stored or it is processed or analyzed, all these patients are getting subject IDs. Like you have student ID, employee ID. So only subject IDs are given to each and every patient. That is how these guidelines need to be adhered to, and confidentiality has to be maintained. Another aspect, informed consent. Consent of these volunteers is very important. Without consent, you cannot admit them in the clinical trial. You cannot recruit them, enroll them in the clinical trial, and so on. And we'll definitely look for more details about these guidelines in coming slides. So what are the clinical trials? They are the prospective studies on human subjects, and those are designed to determine safety and efficacy. So in these clinical trials, safety data and efficacy data, both the information is processed. And no need to repeat again. I already told you what is safety and efficacy, so you are able to relate it now in a better way, I feel. Tests which are conducted for the new methods of screening, prevention, diagnosis, or therapy. And during the conduct of this trial, the risk benefit analysis is also done. What is the risk of a volunteer patient or consuming that drug? And what are the returns or what are the effectiveness of it? So sometimes you might have heard there will be some side effects of some of the medicines or some of the drugs. So we need to understand, rather pharmaceutical companies, doctors, researchers, they need to properly analyze what is the risk factor involved whenever a new drug is being tested or it is being prescribed by the doctors after it got approval to the patients, and the returns. So the level of side effects or adverse events should be minimal. It should not happen that healthy patients are now becoming unhealthy and unhealthy patients are further becoming unhealthy. So the moment such alarm is raised, some such red signal is identified, negative signal is identified, pharmaceutical companies as part of scientific guidelines have to stop that clinical trial. They cannot go on conducting just because for pharma companies it is a business. They have to follow the ethics, they have to follow rules and regulations. Okay. Just a second. Are you able to see my screen? Can somebody confirm?
Yes, it's very much visible, Suchit.
Okay, thank you for confirming. So moving on to the next slide. So in terms of clinical research process, as I told you, there are various phases. So it starts with preclinical testing. As you know, coming back to the real life example, when we wanted to discover something, when we wanted to explore something as good as our moon, So what the astronauts or what the NASA did, they sent animals first. They ensured that animals are sent to the moon and they return back to Earth fit and healthy. And afterwards, Mr. Neil Armstrong, human, he was sent to the moon. So same concept, same logic is implemented in clinical trials also. So preclinical testing is nothing but testing done in animals first. So it should not happen, but if in case, if that molecule or that chemical has some adverse reaction and it is creating a serious health condition, then better it first identified in the animals itself rather than directly in human. So on that basis, once it is successfully cleared in animal phase, then it is given in human. And then investigational new drug application is submitted, that we call it as IND. And then we have various phases of clinical trials. So I'll just quickly let you know, and then there are detailed slides also after this slide. So phase 1 is about assessing the safety of a patient. Healthy patients, 10 or 20 number of patients are recruited in the phase 1, and the safety aspect of the drug is tested. Phase 2 is about again safety and effectiveness of a drug. Phase 3 is about recruiting large number of patients. So when we say large number of patients, around 1,000 number of patients at least are recruited, enrolled in that study. So it is more like a confirmatory phase, wherein we are confirming the effectiveness or the lack of it, whatever it is, of a drug when it is tested on more number of people. So we will come to know as data scientists, as data analysts, we are always looking for a trend and trend analysis that we are making. So we have to have a large scale of testing on large scale of target population who are suffering from that disease on which this drug is tested. Only after that we will be in position, better position to identify the trend, whether this drug is really effective or not on variety of population, variety of demographics. Demographics, as I said, study of a population, Asian, European, African, so on, Chinese, Japanese, and so on. So we are talking variety of population. Licensing. So licenses is nothing but regulatory authorities are giving license to sell this product, to market and sell this product in market. It requires proper approval for the prescription to be done by the doctors for their patients. And then post-marketing surveillance or post-marketing studies are conducted. These are special studies which are conducted to, again, determine the trend, how this drug, whether we require to come up with a new version or a new, what we can say, new formation or new type of same drug. So again, they are performing all these trials across various these phases, testing various these phases, and so on. So post-marketing studies also plays an important role. So I'll not go much in detail. So some of the things I have already highlighted here in phase 1, usually conducted with open label. So what do you mean by open label? As we are around, say, around 10-15 minutes away from the scheduled close time for this session. So accordingly, I just rearrange or replan my explanation. So you can see here phase 1, as part of assessing the drug safety, we are talking about open label studies. So what do you mean by open label studies? So the volunteer patients, so we call them in a very sophisticated and in a very diplomatic way. We don't call them patients, we call them subjects. So subjects and patients are one and the same. So phase 1 trials are conducted in open label, in which subjects are aware that the drugs they are being given. So what do you mean by they are aware? Obviously, when they're signing informed consent, they know for which disease they are enrolled. Then what do you mean by this? What is the awareness we are talking about? So if you have heard or not, I'm not so sure, but we have something called as placebo. So you can pronounce it in multiple ways based on the locations that you are basically based out of. So some people, they say placebo, some people, they say placebo, placebo, and so on. So placebo is nothing but what? A dummy drug. So what do you mean by dummy drug, and what is the significance of dummy drug? So when there are, say, 10 patients enrolled in a clinical trial, they are divided into two sets. 5 patients in one set, 5 patients in second set. So we call it as one treatment group, say treatment group A and treatment group B. So both the treatment groups are not aware whether they will be given a dummy drug, which looks very similar in formation and size to that actual drug. So if you have a, say, if you have a headache pill, you have seen the radius of a headache pill, say crocin or whatever it is. So if you are given a crocin, so treatment group A gets a actual crocin and treatment group B gets a dummy drug. So it looks like a crocin in color and in size and in shape. It is as it is, but it is actually a dummy drug, or it's like a normal, what we say, a kind of a chocolate. It has no therapy related attributes or curing related attributes. It's just a dummy. So both the treatment groups are getting two separate set of pills, one actual drug and another one is dummy drug. There is a study of human behavior wherein you feel that sometimes when you have a headache, okay, and take a quick nap, you sleep for some time and you feel your headache is cured. You're not consuming any drug. Sometimes it is in our mind also, now you have consumed a drug, so you should feel better. So you start feeling better. It is scientifically proven that if state of mind is positive, then there is more chances of you're feeling better even though you're not consuming anything. So the researchers and the pharma companies, doctors, they have to eliminate this aspect. They have to ensure that only and only because of the actual drug, the disease is getting cured, and not because somebody is feeling that he is getting a drug and he is feeling better. So that will not give us a clear picture whether drug is effective or not. And that's why in open label studies, subjects are aware that the drugs that they are being given. So test drug is introduced to humans. And most phase 2 studies are randomized trials. So randomized trials are randomly distributed into various groups. As I told you, placebo. As I told you, what is placebo? A dummy drug. Phase 3 is a large scale testing. 1,000 number of patients are recruited, and only after phase 1 and phase 2 are successful, phase 3 comes in picture, wherein efficacy of a drug is tested. And last but not the least, post-marketing studies which are conducted. So after all these phases are over, comes the next step wherein they are submitting this application to the regulatory authority are examining from their point of view. How do they examine? I'll come back to that point also in one of the later slides, because regulatory authorities, they understand their own language. Pharma company A, say Japanese pharma company, will submit their reports in their format. Indian pharma company will submit their report in their format. European pharma company, US pharma company, African pharma company, everybody will submit their safety and efficacy format. But regulatory authority have their format, they have their language. So I'll come back to that point later, and just highlight number of patients, 20 to 100 sometimes based on the requirement are recruited in phase 1, healthy volunteers. Then 100 to 300 participant in phase 2. Phase 3 we have 1,000 to 3,000, and then phase 3 wherein determine the effectiveness of a therapy compared to other traditional or new therapies. So there are various aspect is there. So my internet connection is unstable, so I might lose the connectivity, but I'll reconnect in a minute. So just I'm letting you know in advance. I hope you're able to hear me, Santosh sir.
It's quite audible, Suchit. You can continue. If there is any essential requirement, we will interrupt in between. You can continue your session.
Okay. Yeah, even I think might be my voice is breaking because of some internet connectivity issues. So just to confirm, are you with me? Are you
yes,
Yes, sir.
Quite audible. Yeah.
Yes.
In between, would you like to take some of the question?
I think he is disconnected.
Okay, let me check.
Okay, sir.
Hi all. Yes, I have reconnected again. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me share my screen again. Okay. So, Poonam, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for confirming. So I'm really very sorry. I got disconnected because of some issue. I have reconnected again. So moving on to the next slide, as we have gone through this slide already. Few more things are mentioned here. I have already mentioned new drug applications. So NDA, after this session, all of you must understand NDA in this context is not National Defense Academy. It is new drug application is submitted to the FDA. What are the various sections in protocol? So objective of a clinical trial is determined. What is the objective? What is the primary objective? To cure the disease such as coronavirus. What is the design? Whether it will be a parallel study or a crossover study. So what do you mean by parallel study or a crossover study design? Parallel study means what? One treatment group will always get actual drug. Other treatment group will always get a dummy drug. Crossover study is nothing but there will be two parts of that crossover study. In first part, treatment A will get actual drug, B will get dummy drug, and afterwards there will be a swapping. Treatment B will get actual drug and treatment A will get a dummy drug. So that is the something called as crossover study. So actual drug is tested on all patients in both the groups in crossover. So what are the various methodologies that will be implemented? Scientific, statistical methodologies. What are the various types of assessments that will be conducted in terms of statistics? All the things are mentioned in the clinical trial protocol or a study protocol. And what are the various statistical considerations? So we are talking about what tools and what statistical models will be implemented to determine safety and efficacy of a particular drug that is being tested. So this is how the protocol looks like. So as you have seen at the beginning of this session, so there was one header slide which was presented by our professors, wherein it was giving us a complete view of what is this conclave all about. Similarly, this is the header of the protocol, clinical trial protocol. It talks about everything. And each and every word here means something. So which phase? So we are talking about phase 2, safety as well as efficacy in initial phases. Randomized, whether a drug will be randomized to more than one treatment group. If yes, then it is randomized. Double blind means what? Both the sponsor and the patients are not aware which drug are given to which treatment group. Placebo control means whether we are going to have a placebo control. Yes, because we are talking about randomization. So we will have two treatment groups. So one group will get placebo, dummy drug. That's why it is called placebo control. Parallel group. So we are talking about now what? Parallel study. So one group will get actual drug from start to end. Other group will get dummy drug from start to end. So they are being treated parallelly. 6-week study. What is the tenure of that study? 6 weeks. The efficacy, I told you what is efficacy, and safety also I told you what is that of a molecule. Some code word is given to that molecule, say TAK063 in subjects with acute exacerbation of schizophrenia. So we are talking about patients who are suffering from this disease. So those who are doctors participating in this session, they know what are the meaning of this last 3 words. But in layman's term, this is one type of a disease for which this clinical trial is conducted, acute exacerbation of schizophrenia. So if I have not pronounced it 100% right, then I beg your pardon, all the doctors, with utmost respect. And then who are the sponsors, study, all these things, as I just mentioned, are mentioned there. So what are the objectives? Determine the efficacy and safety. And what is the therapeutic indication? Schizophrenia. Time and event schedule. So as you know, this conclave is having certain time and event. This is the 3rd session of the day. running from 3 to 4, last session of the day. After that, this session will get over, this conclave will get over. Similarly, clinical time and event schedule, wherein in which week what all things will be done. System screening, system enrollment. So when we talk about system screening, system enrollment, we're not talking about IT systems here. Screening is done technically, technologically, electronically. So screening of a patient, enrollment of a patient, various visits that patients have to give to those sites where this research and development is being taken, is being conducted. The various sites means various hospitals, demography, and these are the various types of clinical data, which is safety related clinical data. So if we are talking about any gynecology related studies, then we are talking about pregnancy data as row number 8. Then we are talking about laboratory assessment, medical history, all these things I have already told you. So, and these are the various schedules. So one snapshot I have provided you how the time and event schedule is created for a clinical trial. So as we are 9 minutes away from the end time, 4:15, and I think we are very much on track. Moving on to the various key concepts as we are concluding this section of clinical research, and then I'll let you know about the SAS aspect of it. So randomization, I told you, assigning subjects to treatment or control groups. Blinded study, so the subject, the investigator or anyone is unaware of the treatment assignment, what treatment is given, what is the dosage, etc. Control group is the group that is getting a placebo. Placebo, I told you, pharmaceutical preparation that does not contain, again, I repeat, that does not contain any investigational agent. That placebo is a dummy drug, which tests similar to actual drug, looks like a actual drug. Multi-central trials, so we are talking about now this conclave is happening with participants from various geographies, right? So similarly, patients are recruited at various centers at various sites. So we call those trials as multi-central trials. US FDA, time and again I have told you, these are the regulatory authorities. Those are the fatherly and motherly figure for all the pharmaceutical companies. If they say yes, then and then only this drug is allowed to be marketed and sold in market for the end user, for the actual patients, or for the doctors to prescribe. And new drug application, as I told you, that pharmaceutical companies need to submit to the regulatory authorities. So these are the summary that I have summarized here, listed down here. Last but not the least, two key concepts I have mentioned: eCRF and sponsor. So what do you mean by eCRF? eCRF stands for case report form, collection of data. So when every 10 years, when this population census is conducted, you might have seen 10 years ago, around 2011, when population of India was counted as part of population census counting activity. So the government officials used to visit to your place, and they used to have one form wherein they used to ring your bell, and then you open the door and you give information. Okay, how many family members, what is the age, what is the gender, since when you are residing here, etc., etc. Similarly, eCRF is a electronic case report form. It is a tool by which data is collected from the patients. As simple as that. And sponsor is a pharmaceutical company which is funding and conducting research and development activity. Now, as I told you a few minutes back, so when we are talking about regulatory authorities, so CDISC. So CDISC stands for, you can Google also, I'll not spend much time on what is written on these slides, but more importantly, understand the concept. CDISC, that is Clinical Data Interchange Standard Consortium, is what? It is a standard that has been used by the FDA. So what do you mean by this standard? So standard to assess the effectiveness and safety of a drug. So whatever safety and efficacy reports that are submitted by pharmaceutical companies, those reports should be in the format the way regulatory authorities want. So let me give you one simple example. A and B, person A and person B. So person A is what? Pharmaceutical company. Person B is regulatory authority. So what do you mean by standard here? I'm telling you one simple example. Person A is, I repeat, person A is pharmaceutical company. Person B is regulatory authority. So A knows Marathi. B knows Hindi. A speaks in Marathi. B doesn't understand. B speaks in Hindi. A doesn't understand. A also knows English. B also knows English. A speaks in English. B understands. B responds in English. A understands. What is English here? Read the heading of the slide. CDISC. It is a standard which regulatory authorities understand. And you have to submit, as a pharmaceutical company, you have to submit your safety and analysis, safety and efficacy reports in this format only. Then only those reports are admissible. Like those who are lawyers and those who know something about law, you might have heard of this terminology. This proof is not admissible. Similarly, if you are providing in your legacy format, Indian format, Asian format, European format, American format, no. That is called a legacy format. It is not admissible in the court of regulatory authority. Only CDISC format is admissible. That is how the term goes, and various standards that has been defined by the regulatory authorities. SDTM, study data tabulation model. So again, how you are submitting data in which tables, in which rows and which columns format, in which headings, what will be the name of those columns, variables, etc. Without wasting much time, moving on to the next slide. So as I told you, the scientific guidelines. So one of the very important aspect is good clinical practices, GCP. So ICH stands for International Conference on Harmonization of Technical Requirements. So how this clinical study is conducted, every company has to follow a good clinical practices. So material is available on Google. You can go through what are the good clinical practices. So mainly it are divided into 4 major categories: quality aspect of it, quality of a clinical trial, quality of a final product, safety aspect of it, whether any patient is facing any adverse event or causing any risk to his health. Efficacy is of course important. Disease has to be cured. You are paying for that medicine. So in return, you should get good health. And there are various multidisciplinary topics that are part of this ICH GCP. Coming to the last section, that is SAS. As it stands for Statistical Analysis System. So SAS is a tool by which you can electronically capture data, store data, convert data from one format to the other format, derive new columns, derive new data sets, merge two data sets, perform some statistical derivations. What do you mean by statistical derivations or derived analysis? Say, for example, if height and weight is collected, so what you can derive from height and weight? BMI, body mass index. So you require these two variables to calculate BMI. So like we have many programming software, SAS also has various syntax and various keywords and functions and procedures by which you can calculate various types of derived analysis, derived numbers. There are various procedures, as I told you, proc SQL, you can write SQL code, advanced SQL code. Then you have summary statistics, you can calculate number of observations, then you can calculate mean, median, standard deviation, you can calculate positive skew, negative skew, histogram, outliers, so on and so forth. Many statistical things that you can do. Another aspect of this software package is that you can generate visualizations in terms of graphs, histogram, pie chart, various dots that you see across x-axis and y-axis and z-axis. All those things you can do it using SAS. SAS is a very powerful tool. It is not a new tool, but it is evolving tool, and so many newer versions are coming up, and it is one of the leading tool which is used in clinical research industry or pharma industry. SAS in clinical trials. So just to give you summary, once the data is clean, a clinical trial report should be written for submitting to regulatory authorities for product approval. So these reports are generated using SAS. What reports I already told you: safety and efficacy. It's a biostatistical tool also. So the biostatisticians who are from statistical background implementing statistical models, they are not implementing statistical models on blackboard or whiteboard. They are using the features of SAS, wherein you have prop G-graph and various SPSS, we call it. SPSS is statistical package for social sciences. We have ANOVA, analysis of variance, and so on and so forth. So ANOVA is the concept which is already being feed as a programming property. We have various procedures which perform ANOVA and so many other things. They generate tables, listings, figures, graphs, so forth for various clinical trials. This is the last point. I think 4:15 was the time and it's now 4:16. So I take another 3 minutes from all of you as I'm now talking about the last point that I want to present here. So I'm talking about doctors, medical data reviewers, and I am not a doctor, I'm Mr., as you have seen in the first slide. So how Misters or Mrs. or Miss in the SAS world are helping doctors is something how I can put it here. So just a last glimpse how Mr. SAS professionals are supporting doctor medical data reviewers, MDRs. So we have various terminologies. So we call it as part of a data science terminology. We separate data preparation from reports. So we create a data which is ready for analysis. So we are collating data from various modules. So here now just assume that we are talking about information which is already stored in various tables. So we are collating information from various tables in terms of merging or subsetting or supersetting, and we are creating that data which is ready for analysis. And then once we have that data available in SAS format, a table format, we use that SAS data set as input to generate reports. And we are given the specification by the doctors or medical data reviewers that we want to perform review of such clinical data in this way. So it's a handshake. What do you mean by that? A handshake between the statistical or SAS programmers and doctors. So when doctors say, hey, Mr. SAS, I want to review this data from medical perspective. Can you perform some statistical analysis and give me the information in the format that I want? Then I will say, hey, doctor, nice meeting you. I'll implement this SAS tool. I'll perform some statistical analysis and I'll submit you the final reports. You go through it. So there are two types of numbers. What are the relevance of those numbers? A number, say number 100. What is number 100? Number 100 will have two types of significance. One is what? Statistical significance, and another one is clinical significance. So when I say 180 and 100, what do you mean by 180 and 100? 180 is greater than 100. 180 and 100 difference of 80. This is our numbers. These are statistics, right? So then what is 80 and 100? 80 is 80% of 100. 80 is 20 less than 100. These are all numbers. This is what Mr. SAS knows. But what is 180 and 100? In clinical terms, 180 is high blood pressure, 180, 120 or 120, 80. When you go to a doctor and they check your blood pressure, they let you know, doctor, what is my blood pressure reading? He says 120, 80. What do you mean by 120, 80? That is medical relevance. So systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure. What do you mean by SBP and DBP? 120 is what? The rate of or the speed of blood circulation at the time your heart beats. I repeat, okay? This is one simple knowledge I'm giving you from on behalf of my doctor friends. 120 and 80 is what? 120 is nothing but the speed at which blood is circulating in your body at the time of heartbeat. And between two heartbeats, what is the rate of speed of that particular blood in your body is diastolic. Systolic at the time of heartbeat, diastolic between two heartbeats. That is how you differentiate 120 and 80 from medical perspective. So we want to calculate say trend analysis. What is the blood pressure over the period of time during a clinical trial? When we are talking on merging data, means what is the relation of any adverse event happening to a patient with respect to his medical history, or what are the lab results, how they are impacting his health, whether any lab readings are going up or down, hemoglobin levels, etc., etc. I mean, various cells count, and so on and so forth. So in short, when we are providing our SaaS services to doctors, we are in need of recipe. That is nothing but what? Specs. Once we have specs in our hands, specs will let us know what? They will not teach us what medicine. They will not make us a BHMS or a MBBS. They will just let us know. So this is the clinical data. This is the programming instructions. Please create these flags. What do you mean by flag? Any adverse event happened to a patient while he is in the trial. So can you please flag that particular date on which adverse event had occurred? That adverse event might be related to the drug that he's consuming, that is being tested. If it is having any relation with the test drug, then it is a very serious thing. Adverse event should not happen, and so on and so forth. Data is the ingredient. So once we have recipe in place, we get the clinical data, and then we create a data set. Data set is nothing but batter. Now we are talking about creating a dosa, Indian cuisine I'm talking. So creating a data set or preparing a batter. And finally, we are generating the outputs, and something that is coming out is ready for use, is ready for analysis from doctor's side. That is what coming fresh out of oven. So this is the entire world of clinical research. In last 30 seconds, I can say that the entire world is suffering from this global pandemic, that is coronavirus, and many clinical trials are, and the clinical research professionals, doctors, nurses, and all the medical staff, even SAS programmers who are working in clinical domain, even SAS programmers are only contributing 0.1% to the conduct of clinical trial, but all these people are working day in and day out to identify what? To identify that one molecule, that one vaccine, which will cure the disease of coronavirus. So that vaccine should go through various tests, such as phase 1 from safety perspective, then later phases from efficacy perspective, and then FDAs are working overtime to receive these applications and receive these safety and efficacy analysis reports in English, double quote English, that is SDTM standard. And they are trying to ensure that as many applications they are reviewing various reports. And let's hope, as I told you at the beginning of the call, a clinical trial generally takes 5 to 10 years, but because of the urgency of such coronavirus, and we do not have any treatment available till date, and unfortunately people are dying across the world, so all these trials are conducted in expedited manner. My team, I'm managing a team of SAS programmers, are literally working for 15 to 20 hours, at least twice or thrice a week, and to ensure that we are generating this safety and analysis report, so that pharma companies go ahead and submit it for the review and approval. And hopefully, if not in 1 year, at least 2 years from now, we will have vaccines available and we all will come out of our houses. That's how I can conclude my session. I took few more minutes. If you had some other meetings from 4:15, I apologize for that, but I'm sure you will get this.
Suchit, can we take 1 or 2 questions?
Sure.
Is there any certification for a SAS, or how to become a SAS programmer? So there was one question.
Yes. Okay. So I'll just go to the conversation. And so to answer the first question, thank you, Santosh sir, for letting me know the first question. So there is a global SAS institute. So SAS is a software. So like we have Oracle company, we have SAS company. They have developed this SAS trademark. So they have this global SAS institute where SAS certifications exams are conducted. So global SAS certification is available. Material is available on Google, wherein you can refer how to prepare for base SAS certification exams. So the first exam, beginners who are beginner to this SAS world, they have to study base SAS, BASC, base SAS certification exam. And in terms of dollars, that SAS certification exam cost around $180. So you can calculate 180 into around say 80 rupees. So around 15 to 17,000 is the fee of that SAS certification exam. So I will recommend and I'll suggest that whoever wants to learn SAS, please learn SAS for at least 3-4 months. If you have any friends or colleagues who are using licensed SAS software version, please have some practice. Please go through Google material and then apply for certification exam. 16 to 18,000 Indian national rupees is the fee, and it is of course non-refundable. And more importantly, the passing criteria is around 80%. So as per the revised curriculum, the total marks are 1,000, and you have to score at least 700 to 800 marks. So, and you get around 2.5 to 3 hours to complete the test. So please be sure that you refer all the SAS material, practice SAS if possible, and then apply. I hope that answers the first question.
Yeah, we will take a last question, Suchit. Why
Sure.
generally the clinical trial is done on rats only? So this is a bit different, but I suppose if you can answer here. We can understand here you are not a doctor, but still here from your domain.
I am not a doctor, but I am a film enthusiast, and I have watched one famous Indian movie also, Munna Bhai MBBS, and most of the Indian participant might have watched it. So the characteristics of rat's body are similar to human body, something that I can say in layman's term. So, and that's why somebody like rats are preferred. So on a larger scale, I would say that when we talk about animal studies, there are two types of animal studies. One study wherein drug which will be tested on human is first tested on animals. And then we have some animal studies which is for the disease which are happening to animals. So now we have the festivals of Diwali or Christmas, wherein lots of firecrackers are burst. So I was part of one animal study which was conducted on dogs, wherein they were shivering or they were having hypertension during these firecrackers and noise and of that. So we were that pharmaceutical company was finding the drug. So that is how I can answer this question.
Over to you, Poonam.
Thank you, sir. This is very informative session, especially our world is going through this tough phase. We have this information about this clinical research. I would like our HOD, Mr. Santosh Singh, a man of action, a man who has the will to take every obstacle head on and somehow turn into golden opportunity for learning. Thank you so much, Santosh sir, for giving us so much this 3-day wonderful session, and you have made it impossible possible. And please give us a conclave summary report or participant.
Good evening, all of you. So here we came to the end of our conclave, end of the journey, International Infothon Conclave 2020. The conclave theme we have adopted, which was different than the conventional webinar, because we wanted to put many things, many spectrum, many dimensions we wanted to include in a 2 or 3 days. It was very easy for us to only just conduct 2 or 3 session or 4 session related with a different dimension. But we wanted to cover a variety of area, and then we thought this International Infothon Conclave. There were 9 different tracks, and each of the track were chosen based on the expertise available on time, because there were some global coordination required. First day also we had 1,500 plus registration. Then second day we have a 1,300 plus, and then the third day today 1,700 plus registration. Only just getting a number was not important. It were that many variables. It is very, very easy and convenient to organize some of the conventional seminar or conference when we are adopting a traditional process. Max to max, we used to have a 200 or 300 participant, but we used to have that many variables, that many question, answer, that many feedbacks. And believe me here, my entire team, which we are having a total 10 people in my department, they're working days and night. Hardly we sleep for 3 to 4 hours because there were many things to do in the last 15 days. I feel deep gratitude towards all the speakers, those who have joined here for this International Infothon Conclave based on various variables, timing constraint, And let me put you, this is on a record. Nobody has charged a single rupees for this entire thing. Everyone, the fact they have just joined to spread the education. Learning is an ongoing process. It is a never-ending process. And I am very thankful to all my fellow colleagues, and I'm very much thankful to all the participants. And I hope here they will continue to spread this journey ahead. I'm very much thankful to all the to our management, to our principal, student group, my friends, Dr. Nishikant Jha, my fellow colleagues, those who have joined for this international conclave. And I'm very much, I'm looking forward. We can do some more event here in future, and we have got a database, and we will surely contact you. Now we are like a family, and of course here we'll try to look forward for arranging some of the great event ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I would like to call Mr. Anand Upadhyay, Conclave Secretary, to deliver vote of thanks. Over to Anand, sir.
Actually, Anand is, I think he's logged off because of some technical problem.
Jyotsna, you can continue, please.
Yes, sir. On behalf of Anand and on behalf of me, Jyotsna, we both are Conclave Secretary. So we are very thankful to all the participants, those who have made our conclave a successful event. On behalf of Thakur College of Science and Commerce, management and Department of IT, I extend a formal thank you to all the participants, to Mr. Suchit for gracing the occasion from your busy work from home schedule, basically. And a special thanks to the person behind this conclave, our very own head of the department, Dr. S.K. Singh, Dr. Santosh sir, and the technical team head, Mr. Omkar Singh and Dr. Tere sir. So I'm so grateful as a conclave secretary. I'm so grateful to all the participants because I have observed there are so many participants, those who have attended our all sessions, all 9 sessions, and patiently they were cooperating with us. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot. And we all look forward in the future also for such nice things to happen together, where globally we all should come together and do something nice for the society as a teaching community. So all the very best and have a nice session. Over to you, Poonam.
Let me put the last thing on a record here. Some of the participants, those who are facing a problem related to the certificate, we assure you each and every certificate will be sent from our side. Don't hesitate to write us on iic@tcse.edu.in. Don't hesitate to call us, and we'll assure you each and everyone will get the certificate. But my sincere request here, try to fill up the feedback form now here in this link, because we are getting a lot of requests, and our feedback link is getting viral, and then here there is a lock process. So please fill up the feedback form here, and please don't forward the feedback link to any other respective group. So here it is genuine. Those who are attending the conclave, those who are attending the session, they should get the certificate. So try to understand this, and please cooperate with us. Thank you very much. And last but not the least here, I am very much thankful to the backbone of the conclave, Dr. Girish Tere, Josran Thal, Anand Upadhyay here. They have worked a lot. And Dr. Girish Tere was our technical coordinator. He is in a process of generation of all this feedback link, generation of the certificate. So thank you very much, sir, for your kind cooperation.